pretty much the CCNA is like you saying you understand networking without saying you understand networking. So that's what that CCNA is going to do for you. So welcome to Debt Free in IT. I'm your host, Mike. This podcast is for anyone who's looking to get into the IT industry, whether it's for a career change or you're just interested. I think you come to the right place. So this episode stems from a listener question that was left under one of my previous videos. So as you all know, I always encourage you to leave me questions or comments under my episodes. You can hit me up on IG, Facebook, TikTok, whatever platform you find me on. You can always submit a question. And sometimes those questions end up becoming full episodes just depending on the question. So this listener left a question saying that they wanted to get into network engineering. They have a cyber background with a Security Plus certification. They asked which direction do I recommend they go to complete their goal of becoming a network engineer. So the first tip I'm going to recommend to helping your transition is we're going to use that cybersecurity background in your benefit. So pretty much we're doing the opposite. Where you often hear me say that networking translates directly to cybersecurity, the same goes for the opposite. If you already know some cyber portions, that's going to translate directly over to networking. So you may already be familiar with some cybersecurity terminology. You may already have some experience in cybersecurity. So I think that's going to prove to be beneficial to you, because as you start looking for jobs, once you learn that networking portion, you start looking for jobs. As you notice now, you may have already noticed that when you look up network jobs, network engineers, network administrators, network admins, a lot of times you see those jobs often require you to have some security experience too, where they may have networking and security under one role. So this job may be asking you that, or asking that you know or have some firewall experience, or know how to configure, be familiar with Palo Alto devices, be familiar with Fortinet devices. So if you already know that security aspect, maybe you're already familiar with those items. So if you are, then that's going to make an easier transition. But then let's just say that if you're not familiar with them, maybe you've been working on the internet side of security. So, but you're still going to be familiar with that terminology that's going to directly transfer over to the networking realm. So if you can learn cybersecurity, there's no doubt in my mind that you can't translate that and go and learn networking too. My second tip is going to be that you start to go and get some networking knowledge and or some certifications. So everyone know that the first thing I'm going to recommend for certification wise is going to be the CCNA. So this is one of the best ways I can think of that you can show you understand networking. So pretty much the CCNA is like you saying you understand networking without saying you understand networking. So that's what that CCNA is going to do for you. So I recommend that to anyone that's going to try to get in networking. So like I said, you're going to choose the route that you're going to learn this material. So it could be that since you already have a cyber background, which lets me know that you're probably okay with self-study. So I would say you may choose to self-study using resources like books, video courses, labs. Look back at any CCNA video I have. I talk about all of those items. So looking at that, you may use Packet Tracer to do your hands-on. Or you could say that you're not good at self-study. Let's say that you're not too good at keeping yourself accountable. You know, everyone is not good at self-study. Some people, you need that push behind you where, okay, I might need to take a structured networking course because I know I'm going to have due dates and deadlines where I got to get this done between. So that's going to push me to go through and do this networking course. So whatever way you choose, you're going to have to choose one of them. So either self-study or taking a structured networking course. But whichever one you choose, hopefully it leads you to that CCNA certification. Because like I said, that CCNA certification is one of the best certs I can think of for anyone that's trying to get into networking. Even if you're getting into networking and you're not going to a Cisco house, so you're not going to somewhere that uses mostly Cisco equipment, that CCNA will still be valuable just because of the weight that it holds, you know, in the industry. It lets you know that, okay, if you learned the CCNA material, then you won't have no no issue translating that towards another vendor type of switch or another vendor networking equipment, because a lot of them use that same command structure. So decide which way you're going to go to get this networking knowledge. Hopefully, self-study, structured networking course, but eventually we want that to lead towards that CCNA. Sorry to interrupt this video. According to my YouTube analytics, 84% of my viewers are not subscribed. If I provided any value to you in any one of my episodes and you're not subscribed, please consider doing so, because it does help out the channel. And also, if you're listening to this in your favorite podcasting app, please leave me a review and share this with a friend. Now back to the episode. So the next thing I'm going to give you is a list of certification options. So you may not be directly trying to go for the CCNA, even though I recommend it, but I'm going to give you a list of other certifications that can help you along your way. So I'm going to start with some entry-level certifications and then go on to some honorable mention certifications. So the entry-level certifications, of course, is going to be the CCST Networking, which is a entry-level certification that I think will be a good stepping stone for you to make your way to that CCNA. And then another entry-level certification is the Network Plus, which is also entry-level. So both of these are good certifications that I think will lead to you getting that CCNA. A lot of times with security, some security roles often require that you have a Network Plus, just so that they can see that you understand some networking. They may not want you to go to full-blown CCNA. So with your Set Plus, I think by you either going straight to that CCNA, which is the first thing I recommend. So that CCNA, that's the gold standard, and to the gold barrier to entry with networking. So if you're not aiming for that CCNA yet, once you start getting those fundamental networking knowledge down, aim for the CCST networking, then that's entry level. So once you get that, it's going to put that battery in your back to help you go forward. And then you go ahead and aim for that CCNA. And then some other certifications that I think will be helpful along your way, or maybe after you get the CCNA certification, because we're going to speak it into existence. I'm pretty sure you're going to get this certification. So after you get that certification, some other certification to look at, I would say, would possibly be any kind of cloud certification, whether it's AWS, Azure, Google, one of those cloud vendors, because a lot of organizations are implementing some form of cloud. Maybe it's hybrid or something like that, but a lot of them are implementing some form of cloud. So I say the cloud certifications, and then Cisco has a certification called the DevNet certification. So this DevNet certification, I like to sum it up and just say, if a network engineer and a software developer had a baby, that baby nickname would be DevNet. So the DevNet certification, it ties along networking along with the programmability of networking. So it goes into some Linux, some Python, a little bit of GitHub. So getting familiar with all of those terms and being able to utilize it in a networking environment where maybe you're pushing down code for your networking environment. So that certification, I think, will be one that will be looked at and asked more about in the future. I think a lot of employers will start to utilize that certification for some networking roles also. So that cloud, and also check out that DevNet certification. Those two. But the first thing, you want to go ahead and tackle that CCNA. Maybe you start with an entry-level cert, the CCST Networking or the Network Plus, and then you go on to get these other certifications. So the main thing that I'm trying to achieve is to help you transition. You already did the cyber stuff because you got that Security Plus. So I think you're good there. But we're adding other elements that shows that, okay, you're interested in networking too. That way, when you're on paper, it looks more like, okay, you could do either or, which would be perfect because, like I said earlier, a lot of positions is starting to ask that you have a little bit of both experience levels. So I think this is going to help you out in your transition and make that transition go a little bit smoother. So then after you take care of all that, after you got that fundamental knowledge, once you started getting a little bit of certifications under your belt, and then you start applying for different job roles. So remember, like I always say, the job roles you're going to apply for mainly is a lot of network technician, network analyst, network administrator. Now, if you already got a couple years experience in cyber, I would still, depending on what position you got now, you may be an analyst or you may be an engineer. Sometimes if you're already an engineer in cybersecurity, it may be a little bit possible to, especially if you move within your own company, then that may be possible to get a network engineer role. But a lot of times, I would say without no networking experience, and maybe you've been doing a couple years of cyber, I would still say start applying for all of those roles. So like a network technician, that's usually the first level. Some companies may not call that job a technician. Some of them may just start out with a network administrator or a network analyst. So those are some of your entry level roles to get you into it. So those are the roles. The analyst and the administrator usually require 1 to 3 years of experience. So if you already got some experience with cyber, then like I said, that will be beneficial for you. So then once you get there, then you start moving up to the engineer and the senior engineer and things like that. So, or let's say that you already have that cyber. So since you already have that cyber experience, like I said, it's possible you could come in networking a little bit higher than that, depending on what type of cyber experience you have. So I'm going to assume that you got a little bit of cyber experience. That's why I'm saying apply for those lower level networking roles. But if you're already maybe a senior engineer or something like that, a lot of times going to networking, it's going to be hard for someone to take that step back, because that step back usually is going to end up being a pretty hefty pay cut if you're going from a senior cyber engineer and you're going down to a network technician or network admin. So that's going to be the tricky part. That's going to be the gray area. So like I said, I've seen engineers or senior engineers switch positions. I've seen them switch from a senior network engineer and move to a senior cyber engineer, but that's from within the same organization. So it's kind of hard to judge on if you're going outside of the organization where you was a senior cyber engineer and going to a networking role. So, but I would say I don't think you should come in no too much lower. But like I said, that's just up to the organization and how they got it structured. But hopefully all of this kind of helps you and guide you along your path. And then the last thing I got is just some of my thoughts on the situation. So like I said, I think you're in a pretty good position with you already having that Set Plus. Like I said, congratulations on that. The Set Plus, like I said, is one of the gold standards for security. So usually there's one way to say that you want to get in cybersecurity without just saying you want to get in cybersecurity. A lot of times that's probably that Security Plus certification. Just like there's a lot of times to say that you want to get in networking without saying you want to get in networking. And that's going to be that Cisco CCNA certification. So good job on the Security Plus. And like I said, once you start going through your transition, the best thing to do is, like I said, have out a plan, draw the plan. I found that within the last couple of years, it's pretty hard to achieve something if you don't write it down. So a lot of times I try to write down my plans for the whole year, draw it out into how I'm going to tackle it within the months of the year and things like that. So you want to have a pretty good plan during your transition. And then also, like I said, once you have this plan down, it makes it easier to execute. So, you know what I'm saying, this plan may be a year plan, maybe a little bit longer, but you have to write out your plan, then stick with it. And then along your journey, one thing that I forgot to recommend during the episode was that networking too. So hopefully, depending on the area you're in, if there's any networking events going along in your area, I would attend a lot of those networking events, especially if it's a tech-related networking event, because a lot of times the tech-related network events ain't no telling who you may meet there. So I've went to a couple of them. I plan to start back getting out there a little bit. I even plan to, once everything kind of settles down a little bit, I want to plan on having my own tech meetups. So it's something that I think is real valuable for anyone that's trying to get into the industry, because at these tech meetups, you never know who you're going to run into. So if you're in an area that has tech meetups, you can look on Meetup, the app. It shows a lot of them in your area, and just start attending these networking events, because a lot of times you could be shaking hands with your new boss, or you could be shaking hands with a new friend that's going to end up recommending you to that networking role, or you may be shaking hands with a network architect who's going to give you that chance and put in a good word for you at their current position. So a lot of this stuff goes in hand, because sometimes, you know, relationships can take you far in this industry too. So having the skill set is what's going to solidify you once those relationships get you in that door or get you that interview. But then just knowing the right people sometimes helps you to get that interview or get in the door. So take all of this with a grain of salt. So hopefully it helps you along your path. Keep me posted. Keep the chat posted. And like I said, I wish you the best. So that brings me to the end of this episode. Hopefully you found some value in this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, you can follow me at Debt Free in IT. If you have any questions, emails, or comments, you can email me at debtfreeinit@gmail.com. Other than that, I'll see you next week. Peace.